And social distancing and wearing a mask ain't gonna help you in this one.
No. So.
Although you could wash your hands of that vendor.
Yuck. Can't wear a mask because they're supposed to deliver them. What up?
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 430 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name's David Sims with HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. Welcome. So this is our annual Halloween episode. So we're going to be talking about our Nightmares Contagious.
Ooh.
Yeah. And we'll get to make a lot of scary sounds along the way.
Yes, and our good friend Boyan, he adds some in now and then. Those are always fun. I love to get those surprises.
Yep, that is true. That is true. So before we dive into today's scary topic, as I think they are most weeks, we do want to say thank you to those who listen, who share, who leave us reviews, and who donate. Appreciate it. All right. What about the HIPAA briefs for this week? Pretty easy, right?
Yeah. It's a HIPAA brief. They're supposed to be.
Yep.
Whitey tight.
So the brief question with, never mind. the brief question.
Yeah, we're off to a good start.
Yeah. You know, there's times when you're like about to say something, you're like,
Yeah. Move away from the microphone, David.
Probably should. Anyway, does HIPAA require business continuity plans?
Yes. We're done. No, so here's the thing that often happens. Somebody will ask that question, and if you do a search in the HIPAA law for business continuity, you will not find it. But you will find a term called emergency mode of operation. I don't know if when the law was written, business continuity wasn't like a, thing. Because remember, this was written in the 90s.
Right.
So I don't remember. There are just some things that aren't worth me remembering, and it's what we called that back then. I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, we're back to some of the problems with terminology. So now in this case, terminology changed. The meaning is the same, but now it's called business continuity plans. And this is also one of those areas where I get on my soapbox and I say, if you're talking to certain people about business continuity, you're talking about different things.
Right.
Because business continuity means continuing to do business in a different way, but you're continuing to do business fully. But if you ask a typical MSP or IT person, they're often talking about, how do we get your systems back up and running? That's not necessarily full business continuity. That just means your systems are running.
Well, that's why it's DRBC.
Right.
BCDR is really what it is. BCDR should be. It should be in alphabetical order. Business continuity, disaster recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just do disaster recovery unless your recovery takes 15 minutes. You don't need a continuity plan for an hour or so, but how often is that ever going to happen?
Yeah.
So that's why they have to go together. And then you have incident response, which is when something happens, you bring the team together, you make sure you've assembled the right people, and you're coordinating the management of business continuity and disaster recovery. That's this chart we use in the boot camp a lot to show how the three work together, so that its incident response is huge and it gets smaller, and it's like during the certain parts of the event you have all three of them operating at some level. So yes, it is required, but it is not called that.
All right. And as with most cases, when we talk about things within the HIPAA brief, that usually means it's something that you probably need to know about in the full meat of the episode.
Yes.
So Are nightmares contagious? Oh, yes, they are.
Yeah, they are. You just don't know it. You know, is somebody's having a nightmare day today, and you don't know, it will create the nightmare for you tonight and tomorrow and potentially for weeks to come. So if it's somebody else's nightmare, how does it become yours, David?
Well, there's two different ways you look at this. Like there's bad dreams and then there's nightmares. And the only difference between the two is when it's happening to you, then it's just a bad dream. But when it's happening to me, it's a nightmare.
Very good point.
Yeah. But yeah, the biggest way this happens, and we have some examples, some happening right now, is when you have like a key vendor that is going through a nightmare attack or scenario. And guess what? When it affects your vendors, especially when they're key vendors, it affects your business.
It's so often when we talk about those business continuity, recovery, incident response, everybody thinks about their own incident. And when we say, what are you going to do when there's an incident at your vendor? Not most people don't know. And those primary vendors, you need to know how you're going to respond when they have an incident. And it could be small, it could be big. It's just going to determine the size of the nightmare terrors that you'll go through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always about your technology vendors either.
Right.
I mean, we've done an episode before about having a plan for your power being out for days on end, long-term power outages, and why you need to plan for long downtimes and those kind of things. But those usually deal with what I can control.
Mm-hmm.
That it's happened to me. And I'm sorry you're having a bad dream, but I'm good. Is what you think about when other people have it.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, the pandemic phase, let me call it that, or because it was just a big length of time.
Yeah.
But when we were going through that, if nothing else, people should have learned that supply chain was a big issue.
Yes.
Because we had it everywhere. I mean, if somebody came to me during that time frame and said, we need some new computers, my response was, I don't know when I can get those.
Right.
I mean, it's just
just a part.
Right. Yeah, anything.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard drive.
So it becomes part of your business continuity plan. So what are you going to do if you need critical supplies or critical services and those things are not available, not because of anything that's happened to you, but because of something that's happened to somebody else?
Yes. Well, I mean, years ago, there were horrible floods like in Taiwan, and all of the factories that made hard drives were flooded.
Mm-hmm.
And Taiwan was our number one supplier of hard drives. So
yeah,
it not only does it not have anything to do with you, it's not even on your side of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what supply chain really does matter. But those that are even closer, like, I don't know, right down the road sometimes, it becomes a thing. So right now, there is an active situation with Henry Schein. So this Henry Schein nightmare is contagious to those who, not the ones that use their EHR. They say their EHR has not been impacted by this. Yet they are not using email at all. So that says to me it's some sort of an email attack. That being the number one way that attacks come in, I'm going to go with, probably an email attack. What do you think?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, when email's disrupted, it handles so many aspects of your business nowadays. Even if you fall back and say, well, just call us on the phone. Your email inbox is able to take lots and lots and lots of messages all at once. Your phone system's not so much.
Well, and a lot of things like we have emails come in and then that triggers other things to happen automatically. And if those aren't coming in, those automatic things aren't happening either.
Yeah. But there's also a different expectation of response time. When you send me an email, you're not expecting a response, within 5 minutes typically. But when you make a phone call, you're like, I need somebody to talk to right now.
Exactly. The urgency is different. Although I do know cases where people send an email and then call, but let's don't go down that path.
Yeah.
That is somebody's creating a nightmare for you. I totally get that. So, but in this case, there was an announcement. Henry Schein says, yeah, we have an ongoing cybersecurity incident. And they assure everybody that I think it's a dental EHR that they have, that it has not been impacted. I'm waiting for more information on that, but they assure everybody. But we have multiple cases of our clients saying, did you know about this? Because they're getting phone calls because Henry Schein's other line of business is in supplies, like healthcare provider supplies. And the phrase of that I'm trying to remember exactly what it said, but they're only doing, our client gets a call from their rep at Henry Schein who helps with the, I'm your sales rep kind of thing, right? You know those people. But they're also the ones that are going to reach out to you. And these places, they don't have room to keep large inventory of supplies they need when they're treating patients. I mean, if they had that, they wouldn't need these supply companies to be so tightly integrated, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of your clients, here's what he said, because I have a copy of the email.
I was finding it. Thank you for keeping what we sent you. Anyway.
Yeah. So he said, I'm afraid that placing orders and getting orders might be two different things. We did an inventory check yesterday, and the couple of things that we knew that we would need in short term, we had to order from an alternative vendor.
Yeah. Because Henry Schein is saying to another client their rep called them and said, we're only handling emergency life and death supplies right now. And so that's saying, great, you're going to help me save people in an emergent situation. However, what about all my other appointments?
Right? Yeah. I mean, most of them aren't critical, right?
Yeah. And because you're used to this just-in-time inventory, which is what really got us in trouble, during the pandemic, is everybody had the just-in-time inventories and like what they had before. It's just like, I know I'm going to need this in 2 weeks, and that's when I'll stock it, is in 2 weeks. And
I mean, we still do that to a large degree because, again, you can get stuff sometimes same day when you order it, depending on where you live and who you're ordering it from. So why stock it?
I know. Well, and we have a Amazon distribution center like a few miles from the house. And there are times where I order something at 11 o'clock at night and at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's there.
Wow.
Yeah. So not necessarily, I mean, I needed it the next day. I didn't need it overnight, but that was the first thing that came through and they just run it over. Can I go over there and borrow a cup of sugar? So we have this scenario and we're talking with our clients because now, what am I going to do? I've got to find another vendor that can get me these. So I'm probably going to have to spend more because the reason I have, a regular with you is you're giving me deals on stuff. So 2 things happen. One is the other vendors have increased volume they weren't expecting. So they might not have the supplies to give you if everybody else hits them first. Also, they're going to be in an opportunity to hey, let me give you a deal where we don't go down and you can order supplies regularly. So they could be taking Henry Schein's clients. And then you've got the real core issue is patient safety and patient care.
Yeah. The other thing to think about is how does this impact your brand, your business from a customer standpoint when it is completely out of your control? Patient
Right.
walks in, they're frustrated, you can't do whatever it is you need to do for them, and they potentially take their business elsewhere, whether temporarily or permanently, and you're sitting there with your hands in there like, but I didn't do this.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, I didn't cause any of this, but you pay the price for it to some degree. And that's where, again, having these plans in place, though, you can be ready for that and have a message that you could present to patients to hopefully offset the frustrations that they may have.
So let me just say, it's clear that Henry Schein's cybersecurity incident is a nightmare for them that is a contagious nightmare for others,
Absolutely.
depending on the services they provide. And it's a pretty big company. They provide a lot of different services. So whatever line of business you're in, even though it doesn't appear to be anything but communications, but they can't communicate.
Yep. And social distancing and wearing a mask ain't gonna help you in this one.
No. So,
Although you could wash your hands of that vendor.
yuck, 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 yuck. Can't wear a mask because they're supposed to deliver them. But so anyhow, that is one that has nothing to do with anything in your IT, nothing to do with any part of what you would normally see in an incident response plan. But when you start looking at the big picture, that has an impact to your ability for running your business and caring for patients.
Mhm.
And so those of you who help people, oh yeah, we helped. They have an incident response plan. IT takes care of that. There's crickets. When you call IT and say, we can't get supplies, we can't care for our patients, what are we going to do? No, they got nothing.
Mhm.
So you got to find that other vendor. You got to do that other stuff if you can. So note, there are multiple people. Oh, and another thing, because this is email, it looks like it's email. You don't want your people opening emails from them when they get them until you're sure
Yeah.
they're not, you've got to do some protections on the emails because clearly that was an important way that they communicate. And now I have to be super leery of any attachments, any links that come from them.
Yeah. And not only that, but criminals just taking advantage of people being in panic mode and looking for these supplies.
Exactly. So now you're going to, anything that has to do with supplies, I mean, anything could be suspicious. So then it could really become your nightmare because somebody is spoofing, somebody actually did get the list so that they know that it is who your emails usually come from, what they usually look like, everything about it, and they make it look like that too. So
Mhm.
you need to tell your staff, don't be opening stuff from them until we get, something in place to make sure. And that makes it even more of a nightmare for you because then you become part of their nightmare. Then I got two others of things where, yes, we have a plan, we have them in place, and the vendor executed the plan. However, there was a flaw.
Mm.
And they both have to do with backup and restore. So we've had this conversation so many times, David, about the key elements of understanding the RPO and the RTO.
Mhm.
And we ask specifically on our vetting, do you have a full documented backup and restore plan? Yes. what is the RPO and the RTO? What are those? Well, that's recovery time objective and recovery point objective. So if go through those, David, what do those two mean?
So in essence, the recovery time objective is just that, like how long is it going to take to recover? What kind of time frame are we looking at? Then your recovery point objective is how far back can we go? So can we go back in a point in time of 5 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, yesterday, last week? What does those points in time look like?
And if you say, yes, we have a backup and you don't know those two numbers, you could be caught up in a problem. Because if you restore and you're 24 hours back, how do you recover not only your downtime records that you hopefully everybody uses, we went to paper, those you've got those, you could re-enter them, but what about the ones that happened in the interim between your restore point and boom?
Right.
So you got 24 hours back. I lose 24 hours worth of records.
And unfortunately, most people don't realize either of those two time frames and point frames until something happens. And then that's when they discover, oh, this is what the RTO actually is, and this is what the RPO actually is. Other than that, they just assume that we have a backup and therefore backups can be restored within minutes.
Which is all wrong.
Almost never. And the funny part about it is when somebody's paying $50 a month and they think that they're going to get immediate recovery. That's just not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I told a company one time, I remember having a conversation with them and they were like, we can't afford any downtime. Like none. And I'm like, well, to do that, you're looking at $1,500 a month for backup. And they're like, oh, well, I think we could probably take a little downtime. So yeah, I can give you what you want. I just don't know that you want to pay for it.
Yeah, so you need to plan for downtime accordingly, as well as restore point. So while you're down, you can have the people doing things on paper, but if you know your restore point is going to be 24 hours back, you know that you've also going to need to recreate all of those other things, or you lose those records. And what does the security rule say about availability and integrity? We're supposed to protect.
Yeah, that's right.
And while everybody always worries about confidentiality, if you cannot trust the records, they're incomplete, or cannot access them ever again, you've got additional HIPAA issues. And there would be a evaluation that would need to be done on whether or not you needed to report this to OCR. To say,
right,
I don't have your records. Oops.
Yeah, I've heard that response before too.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is a similar situation. And so you've got a vendor that but you never ask them what you need to plan for if you need to use that piece of the service. If I need to do a restore, what is it I should plan for? That should be in your plan, because their nightmare can become yours really quickly. And in fact, yours will probably be a bigger nightmare than theirs.
Yeah. It's also worth saying, anytime we're talking about business continuity and disaster recovery particularly, is that if you're in a cloud-based service, I still hear this today, and probably will hear it till the end of time. People still say, I don't need a backup. I have my stuff in the cloud, which, it makes my head spin. But if you have your data in the cloud, whether it's Microsoft, Google, EHR platform, whatever, you need to ask the questions, what happens if I lose data? What happens if I have downtime? What happens if somebody maliciously or by accident deletes information? Can this be recovered? You will find out a lot of these vendors, Google, Microsoft, Intuit for QuickBooks, they are not backing up your data so that you can recover it.
Right.
the backups they have are backups so that they have a massive outage they can recover. But if you delete stuff, whether incidental or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're not going to recover it for you. So all that has to be done with either third-party services, or you have to pay additional services for that to be backed up so you can recover from it.
Well, and some of them don't even want you to be able to do that. They make it hard for you to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I worry constantly. We use Trello, and it is not easy. You can get a backup of Trello, but it's a mess. And, there are some tools, but they become expensive. So you're basically saying, Atlassian, you go now. We trust you 100% with this, which is why we also try to keep everything in, our Google Workspace account, which is, by the way, backed up every day.
Yeah. Yeah. My Google, Microsoft accounts, and QuickBooks accounts.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason my QuickBooks accounts are backed up is because I learned the hard way. We had just not long switched to QuickBooks Online, and we had somebody clicked a button and it made a mess. And we went back to Intuit and was like, yeah, we just need you to roll back the changes in our account because we can't find a way to do it. They were like, no, there's no way to do that.
Not on QuickBooks Online, which is when
there's no
looking for making sure our QuickBooks Online.
I was like, is there not an undo function? They're like, nope. And I was like, wow, just wow.
Yeah.
So now we have QuickBooks backup. And not through QuickBooks, by the way.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a value there as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can get on the soapboxes to whether or not that's a good plan or not, but I kind of like having my backups not on the same service that you're paying for, because if they have an outage, there's a good chance you're not going to get either one.
Yeah, it gets tricky, which gets back to your plan. You need to understand what those vendors are going to do when they do this. So we've got this one group who the vendor was able to restore, but we lost 24 hours worth of records. And we get the call, what do you think about this? And you've got to go through the process, and it's a fact specific determination of what you're going to need to do. And then on a similar one, another group that I dealt with, this has been a couple of years, they had, we got backup and recovery, and they knew no problem. Everything was backed up. Everything was recovered. They were operational. It went great until somebody went to one of their main medical devices that had its own server. Nothing was backed up. And those records were maintained only on that server, and no one had ever looked to see if it was being backed up. So that is the definition of a failure in your complete and thorough risk analysis.
Yep.
Can't be complete and thorough if you never looked. So that's another scenario where they had to say, do I need to report? And you've got to go through what's happened, what are your options, how I can do this. And I mean, they lost all those records on that, like 9 years worth of records. It was crazy. How did they miss that? I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confident they don't do that anymore. But the big issue there is there had a vendor who told them, yeah, we got this. And the vendor was all stressed out. You know how you get when you get when you get that call, it's not like you go, oh yeah, we got this, no problem. Have margaritas in an hour, we'll do happy hour. You get really stressed out on the IT side, and you're like, oh, I hope our plans work, and I hope our testing is still solid. And, so there's a lot of anxiety that goes on. And what the client doesn't know is that amount of anxiety could be transferred to them quickly in a nanosecond, in fact. And if you never even told them about the medical device, they got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So quickly, their nightmares become yours.
Yeah, it does.
And then this is a big one. This happened about 5 years ago. And those who were Allscripts clients at that time will remember this. But their 2 different data centers got hit with a ransomware attack. 2 different data centers. I got questions. Never did go look for the answers. But they have, we have the cloud version. And it strongly impacted the cloud version of their app. They were down, shut down. They were ransomware. But they have a server version. And one would think that the server version would be safe from that. What do we say, David?
Never assume.
Wrong.
Yeah, that too.
But never assume is always what you end up going back to when these nightmares happen. So it also impacted services that the server version connected to in the cloud that were run in the cloud. So parts of the server version systems were down. And the server people were like, hey, we're good to go. Wait a minute, that didn't work?
Mm-hmm.
So they were better. But the other thing is, and I don't know if this occurred, but this outage happened for weeks. And I think it was like 6 weeks, some of the folks told me, before they felt like everything was back to normal.
Yeah.
And the thing that I do know is many of the people that have the server-based version do their backups through Allscripts. And the way that it works is that if your server goes down and you have to lock out of it for some reason, you convert to the cloud version. And they basically spin up your server and restore it to the cloud application to get you through. Well, if I needed them for that during this ransomware attack, are they going to be there for me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say doubtful, because I can't bring the cloud version up. So not only are they down for the people that are using the service, but they're also down for the ones who might need it. So now your recovery plan is down. And I don't know how many people really thought that through, because so much wasn't working. But we did pull an article to really understand. This was a perfect... there's an article about what happened and the impact on patients and the customers. And we usually reference, and I know my team knows, it's, I don't know, for some reason 349 comes to mind, but I don't know what the number is. They know our episodes by number. I don't know the number until you say it when we're recording it. And then I don't ever remember it. But the episode that we did where we were monitoring the Facebook feed when the hospital was down in California, I think.
Yeah, Scripps.
Yeah, Scripps. See, I knew it wasn't Allscripts, but it did trigger me. Allscripts did trigger me. And Scripps went down. There was an attack. They were out, and they didn't have a communication plan, which is what we talked about a lot. And during this outage by the vendor, here's some of the things that are really important to keep in mind. And this article we have a link to so you can get into more of the details. But It's just a graphic that is Allscripts customer verbatims. The ransomware attack had serious consequences for his customers. Here is what the customers had to say. And it's a bunch of little bubbles, quote bubbles.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's start at the top left. Let's see. This is major. Patient safety is our biggest concern right now. We have critical lab results that need to be reviewed. Have you thought about that in your business continuity plan? Because you have no access to it. How can you get it? What would you do? Oh, we'll go to paper. How's that going to help when you can't get to the lab reports? What's the next one, David?
Do you want to do the blue one or the yellow one?
So, the very next one is the dark blue one there.
Yeah, the dark blue one is a bunch of special characters.
Yeah, pound sign, asterisk, ampersand, at, asterisk, exclamation point.
Yeah, representative of a lot of cussing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can hit that baby blue one in there to the right.
So right. So our patient care is suffering. We're an OBGYN office. How many days of your doctor not being able to access your records during pregnancy is okay for you?
So here we have patient safety, patient care. Oh my. And it's impacted by the vendor's nightmare has become yours.
Yeah. I mean, just hitting some of the highlighted areas. So one says, this is totally embarrassing. So now, they're embarrassed because the third-party vendor is causing their practice to look bad. Yeah. Another one, I used to think it might be advantageous to have everything in one system. We are on day 5 of no service.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, it forces my practice to provide subpar patient care.
Yet again.
And another one, I am personally fed up with the lack of meaningful communication. Communication plan, y'all. And then lastly, we are at risk of losing clients. Yes.
So it's a huge impact. And the one that said it's totally embarrassing, I loved, they said, when a patient says, this never happens at my other doctor's offices and they have electronic medical records. Oh my God, that made me want to poke my eye out, imagining what that must be like.
Yeah,
it will happen there.
That's just a way of them saying, you're blaming this on a system and we don't believe you.
Yeah, exactly. And then there are a couple of others with the special characters quotes. So they must have gotten a lot of those.
Yeah, I would imagine. A lot of cussing.
Yeah. But how many times are we talking about? It's no less than 3 of them talked about patient care, patient safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this one. This goes right to one of those things that we often get on the soapbox about. When presented with the option of the cloud, we were told that we would be more secure and protected with these types of threats. They have not held up that promise.
No, you are not. You're simply shifting risks and liability. You're not abdicating that completely away. It's not happening.
So all of those cases literally was the Allscripts people. They were going through a nightmare, but it quickly spread.
Oh, it was contagious.
Big time. So the question we posed is, are nightmares contagious? I believe we've proved our theory that it is.
Oh, absolutely. And to add some...
It's just a bad dream.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. We don't often think about things that potentially are outside of the healthcare industry. But right now, in my backyard of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a Charlotte-based company called Avid Exchange. And they have something to do with with financial account information. Well, they announced that, and this announcement happened on, I think, October 13th. So Friday the 13th, they come out and said, we've had a cyber attack and bank account numbers and PIN numbers were leaked. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, Donna, you want to take a guess as to when the actual breach occurred?
So they told you October 13th. I'm going to guess it wasn't recent.
March the 2nd is when the breach occurred. 7 months ago.
Oh.
Now, somebody's running around with people's bank account numbers, information, PIN numbers for 7 months before they get notified. What kind of damage has probably been done to people unbeknownst and unaware?
Jeez, Pete. So that's like a, what do they call it? Incubation period of 7 months. That nightmare became contagious.
Yeah. I mean, these are bank account numbers and PIN numbers. It could be for medical offices. It could be for anybody. But now you've got somebody potentially dipping into your bank accounts in some form or fashion. And I've got a prospect that I'm working with right now that had $10,000 transferred out of their account through ACH. They have no idea how they even got it. They don't even have ACH services set up on their bank accounts. Like, they don't know how it happened. And, I'm not involved in the investigation side of things. They just called me in from a cybersecurity standpoint to try to figure out how to stop it from ever happening again. But they don't even know how it happened in the first place. So it's just weird. And because of that, I've even went to my bank and set up some ACH monitoring where I have to approve every single transaction if it has to do with ACH, because what I didn't know at the time is if you don't report that within a 24-hour period, it becomes time consuming and sometimes even not possible for you to get your money back. And I'm thinking, would I know within a 24-hour period that somebody sucked money out of my account? Most of the cases I would say, yeah, because I look very frequently. But I mean, it's very possible that it could come out on a Friday or Saturday and I not see it till Monday. Now I'm dealing with, am I even going to get that money back?
Wow.
Crazy stuff. And for whatever reason, because of the time frame this particular prospect caught it, they caught it before it actually happened, but the bank couldn't stop it, which I don't understand all that either. But they had to let it go through. So they saw the 10 grand leave their account and they couldn't stop it. Couldn't stop it. And so they did end up getting their money back, but it was several days later. Now, what the fallout from that was, I don't know. I don't know if they had checks bouncing all over the place, but they did tell them that if you had reported this later, like a day or so later, that it could take weeks to get your money back. I'm like, wow. And if at all.
If at all.
So I don't know. Yeah, if at all. Again, not my forte to be in that particular realm, but it did cause me to run to my bank and say, let's talk about this.
I want to know. Yeah, I'm sure that as soon as some people hear this, they'll be doing the same.
Yeah. So I did. I went straight to the bank and I said, I need to know more about this, how it can happen and how I can protect myself from it. And they were like, oh yeah, this has been a big issue. And we have this new thing called Positive Pay. I don't know how new it is. Called Positive Pay. It's whatever, $15 a month or something like that. It's a no-brainer. Like, come on. I'm certainly signing up for it, and I did. And so there we are. There's a lot of nightmares that can happen to others that are certainly contagious.
Well, I think we have done our job in being scarier than normal today. Ooh. Ooh.
That's right. All right, folks, thanks for listening. We definitely appreciate it. Be sure to share this out to your favorite social media site and leave us a review. We appreciate those when you do send those in. And remember, for Donna and myself, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.